What are you guys doing? Riding on a cable car.
Show them the bottom.
Oh, damn! So we're going to the Buddha right now. What's going on, everyone? It's Blandon here again. That was me hanging out with my cousin and my auntie in Hong Kong. Unfortunately, I didn't catch a shiny Spoink, but I did catch a Charizard, which was pretty cool. And the exciting thing is I just hit 100 subscribers thanks to you guys. Thanks for your support. And it doesn't sound like much for many of you, but it's a milestone for me. And I'm super excited to put together more PvP content for you guys. So do leave some feedback for me. In this video, I'm going to share 3 tips that I've learned sort of throughout my practice. The first one is, how do you pick the 3 Pokemon that you're going to start with in your tournament? As well as, how do you know that you've built a solid 6-man team? And lastly, we're going to cover off how important it is to know how many shields it requires to win the battle. So enjoy. So how we're going to do this is go over a couple of matches, and I'm going to share a lesson with you every 2 matches. First off, we start off with Venusaur, Skuntank. This is Kazuto, who came second in the Boulder Cup. I used Flamethrower there because I thought he might not shield, but he did end up shielding. And he is owning me with that Razor Leaf. So in this matchup, I should be winning because I should be able to get that crunch off a lot quicker. But instead I used Flamethrower and it was the wrong move, so I did check PvPoke after to make sure that is the right play. And Venomoth takes that Venusaur out pretty quickly with the confusion. I am at the disadvantage when the Azumarill come out. Silverwind doesn't do much damage, and as you can see I tried to switch and it didn't work. So very important to make sure you practice your switch. I think I'm just switching way too fast, and it's not a bug, I think it's literally something that you need to practice and make sure you don't do that in the tournament. But over here I did end up getting an Ice Beam off to get the Azumarill out of the way, and it brings out the Toxicroak. My rough play is almost charged up, so I'm able to get that rough play off, but it's not enough to take out the Toxicroak. It gets a dynamic punch off. If it was Sludge Bomb, then I would definitely be out. So that concludes round 1, and Kazuto does end up switching that dynamic punch off out for Sludge Bomb. So in round 2 I am still using the same lineup just to test it out, see how strong this line is. He starts off with Golbat and I'm able to get a crunch off that's dealing neutral damage. It should be quite a bit of damage if he doesn't shield. Obviously if he shields, I will shield because I know Skuntank will take out a Golbat one-on-one if it's using the same amount of shields. So I'm able to get that crunch off, and he's able to get one more move off, and I will save my Skuntank. I sort of take a lead because I know I can get one more charge move off by using that shield, so that's why I did it. And I'm able to use the Flamethrower. If he doesn't shield, he's going to take a whole bunch of damage, and so I'm pretty confident this is sort of over because with the Venomoth it'll take out that Toxicroak pretty quickly. And we got a mirror match for Venomoth, and I'm able to get a Silverwind off. He uses a shield. Azumarill can just sort of sweep up over here, and that concludes match number 2. So how do I pick my top 3 for the first match? In this spreadsheet I'm showing you how I do it. The 6 Pokemon at the top are Pokemon that I might be using, so this could change later on. And then secondly, I'm going to list out all the metagame Pokemon that I might come up against. Then I will think about the top 3 counters by listing them out based on the 6 Pokemon that I'm using. And down the bottom you can see those are the Pokemon I'm coming up against. And straight away when I do the drop down, it automatically tells me what counter I should be using. So in this example, it tells me Skuntank, Tentacruel, Azumarill would be good starter because those are the ones that come up in counter number 1 and counter number 2. And that's sort of how I decide what 3 Pokemon I would start with.
And looking at this lineup, I would start off with Skuntank because it's only weak against Toxicroak. Against everything else, it's got a pretty even matchup. So here's match number 3. I start off with Azumarill versus Toxicroak. I should be at an advantage here. I try to get a play rough off, but he's able to get his move off. I didn't shield here because I thought that might be a mud bomb, but I looked up PvP. The sludge bomb actually charged quicker than the play rough, so I keep that in mind for future fights. So here I bring out Venomoth, but Kazuto does a really good move and he pulls back his Toxicroak like straight away. I pull out my Skuntank. So I take that Ice Beam because I know the Poison Jab should be doing quite a bit of damage, but unfortunately I lag there. It slows my charge move down. I use Crunch here because I was hoping to bait him to use his shield. I should have used Flamethrower, would have done a little bit more damage. Here I had to use the shield because I had the move charged up, so I just spam that Crunch, deal a bit more damage before that Skuntank goes down. Toxicroak, just use one hit to take it down. Get my Venomoth out. Silver Wind doesn't do much. He gets a Mud Bomb off. I'm able to use a Confusion to take out the Toxicroak. The Venomoth comes out to take the win, so props to Kazuto there. So match number 4, switching things up a little bit. I use Raticate to start with. This is actually not a bad matchup. And I did the worst mistake there by switching out Toxicroak, because Toxicroak doesn't even beat Azumarill anyway because I don't have Sludge Bomb, and he is able to switch out his Venomoth. I am sort of going down there. Well, luckily that Crunch did quite a bit of damage, so Toxicroak takes out my Raticate pretty quickly. Surprisingly, was able to get one Hyper Fang off, and he had to use his shield. Luckily, I had a Venomoth that is able to take out the Toxicroak pretty quickly. So he has to switch his Azumarill back out, and he has a huge advantage here. I'm able to get one more Silver Wind off, but is not going to do enough damage to take out Azumarill. He is able to get another Ice Beam off, and that's pretty much GG. So there was a fatal mistake. I did look up PvP afterwards. Raticate does do okay against Azumarill as long as I shield and get those Hyper Fangs off. So tip number 2, how do I know that my 6 Pokemon that I'm bringing are good matchups? Well, if you watch the top 10 Twilight Pokemon video that I have in my YouTube channel, you would have picked some of the good Pokemons out of there. The 3 Pokemon that I would add to that list is Sableye, Venomoth, and Tentacruel. So if you put your top 6 in this spreadsheet and you find that half your team can be countered by one Pokemon, that's probably not the best 6 you can pick. Say for example, if you got Alolan Muck, Skuntank, and Toxicroak, those are all going to take super effective damage from Toxicroak. So you might just want to run with 2 of the 3 and then put some more variations in there. You know, like say Tentacruel, it is sort of weak against Venomoth, which would be the same as Toxicroak, but you know, you got more utility there. So here I pull out the PvP to look at the matchup for Raticate against Azumarill. And if you look down the bottom, the battle rating sort of tells you straight away how many shields is a good matchup. If it's under 500, it means it'll never win, but if it's close to 500, it means it's not losing by a massive margin. So straight away you can see Raticate does okay with 2 shields against Azumarill. So match number 5, we start off with Skuntank versus Venusaur. This time I am going to be spamming my Crunch. I think that is the right play with Skuntank versus Venusaur. Here I get the Crunch off, he shields, and I will try and get another Crunch off, but that Razor Leaf is doing tons of damage. So Kazuto tries to be tricky here, switch Azumarill out. For some reason I switched to Tentacruel, which I really didn't need to. Poison Jab was going to do really good damage against the Azumarill anyway, and I had one more shield. But here I get a Sludge Wave off, and Kazuto said he wasn't expecting it to be that much damage, but well, I mean, it's a full bar charge move. Now he knows it's better to know in practice. So here his Razor Leaf is doing massive damage, and that Venusaur is looking really good. And here my Azumarill takes out the Venusaur, finishes it off. Venomoth comes out, I spam an Ice Beam, he had to shield. I've got one more shield left. Can I take out the Venomoth? It's actually doing quite a bit of damage, and the Silver Wind charges up pretty quickly, so I get that Ice Beam off. He's able to get another Silver Wind. If he had Poison Sting, he would actually take out my Azumarill, or Poison Fang. I forgot what the charge move is for the Legacy. But there were mistakes in both ends anyway, so it wasn't like the best match. Alright, so this is final match number 6. We start off with Skuntank versus Azumarill, testing that lineup again to see if it's unbreakable. This time I spam Crunch, and I know I'm going to shield 100%, because I know I'm going to be at a huge advantage if I'm able to protect the Skuntank and take out the Azumarill. Use a Crunch again, he shields, so I shield again, he gets a Play Rough off. I know I'm going to take him out with a couple more Poison Jabs. Straight away I'm going to use Flamethrower. Toxicroak is going to take tons of damage if he doesn't, so he is able to load up his charge move. He gets a Mud Bomb off, but one Confusion is going to take him out pretty quickly, so I'm at a huge advantage here. I've still got one more Pokemon. I try to be tricky there and switch out my Raticate with my Silver Wind loaded up, but my Raticate is getting smashed by that Venomoth because Silver Wind does super effective damage. I forced him to use a shield though with that Hyper Fang, but he takes my Raticate out, and my Venomoth just pops out, does the Silver Wind, takes out the Venomoth for the win. So here's lesson number 3. If you haven't used the multi-battle feature on PvP, I suggest you check it out. You can actually look at all the matchup for one particular Pokemon. So here I look up Toxicroak. Who is it best against in the Twilight Cup with that moveset. So when we press battle, it'll give us a list at the bottom, and what happens is you can see this battle rating. That battle rating, if it's over 500, it means it's going to win. If it's 600, 700, it means it's smashing that Pokemon on a one-on-one. But more important is actually checking the rating when on the individual matchups, because at the very bottom, if you say for example put in Toxicroak against Azumarill, you'll be able to look at the battle rating at the very bottom. It'll show you exactly what matchup you are going to be able to win in. So here I'm going to give you an example: Toxicroak versus Skuntank. And if you press battle, well, we're just going to switch the move sets first over here to Sludge Bomb, and we press battle. At the very bottom you can see the battle rating chart. Straight away you're able to look at which matchup are the best. If it's a one shield matchup, Toxicroak actually will win with the most health, but in one shield and no shield it wins as well. So very important to note, and if you make a note of this for the important matchups for the metagame and maybe even during the tournament, I think this is a really good quick reminder to see whether or not you should be using the shield and how many shields you should be using. Or if you're going against somebody, maybe say for example some marginal matchups that you might come up against, you are able to look at the shield advantage here. So very important. So here's another example. You can see in some matchup you're actually winning, so no shields you're losing to Azumarill, but in the 2 shield situation Toxicroak actually wins. So very important to take notes of these things. So hopefully you found that helpful, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I love your support and I really appreciate your time, and good luck for the tournament.